Hey everyone, welcome to Founders 365 with me, Steven Haggerty. Today I'm joined by David Kaufman. I've said his name wrong, I'm sure. He's the co-founder of Lifestyle Movement. How are you today, David?
I'm very good, and thanks for having me here.
And it's your birthday, so we have to start off by saying happy birthday.
Okay, everybody sing, please.
Yeah. If you're watching this live, you have to say happy birthday in the comments. It just has to happen. But no, thank you for coming on your birthday, even though you're in Prague and you're kind of semi on lockdown right now, yeah?
That's right. People go a bit crazy here. And actually, I started to wear a mask in here, and then I realized that I kind of get a virus through online. So
yeah, could you imagine if it was that bad and any electronical contact, you got it? Jeez, that world would shut down in minutes. So, David, let's jump straight into it. And I want to know what got you to where you are now. So how did Lifestyle Movement start? What was your background before this? And we'll jump into what you're doing with it at the moment.
Great. I would like to first thank you, Steven, for whatever you're doing in this amazing podcast, because it's so much inspiration. And I hope that people follow and people get the value as you essentially went to that. So thank you very much for having me here today and, following people. This is a great
start. Thank you.
I would start with a story how Lifestyle Movement started. Probably have to make it short because it was a long journey.
Yeah, we've got time.
We have only 1 year since we actually properly started. It was just the idea, mainly come off from passion and through what we went and discovered. I have a partner, Pavlina, as well, where last year we actually get it together and say, look, we have something of value which we want to really introduce to people. So we connected as both professionals and very passionate about fitness, healthy lifestyle, and passion for biohacking and coaching and NLP. All these skills, we mixed it up and just got into opening up Lifestyle Movement. The story dates a long time ago, really. I was still a kid and passionate for traveling. And once my teacher actually asked us in a class to draw what we want to be one day. And I remember that day so clearly because that day changed my life. And I draw what I wanted to be. I always wanted to be a traveler. I had this globe on my table. I spin it and I stop the globe, and I actually know all the capital cities of the world. Wow. So that day I draw actually a man with a traveling hat and pyramids behind me and a sun. And I was so excited to hand this paper to my teacher, and she looked at it. She looked at me and looked at that, and she handed the paper back to me and said, "There's no such a thing as a traveler." So actually she teared the paper off and she handed me a new blank paper. So I sat down, and obviously my second choice was a dustbin man. They have orange uniforms and hang around behind the car. But in that day, actually something has changed. I realized that the dreams are so fragile that actually our systems teach us to be someone which they expect to be because they know the professions. Fast forward, I was about 18. I had this decision I was accepted to a School of Economics in Charles University, which I actually declined. And I instead went to England. I had £100 in my pocket and I got a bus, and 24 hours journey. I was in rain England, unknown, no English, nothing. It was actually a very good experience. From what's supposed to be 3 months, it was 14 years, not just in that country, but all around the world, where I actually get that experience and get the knowledge. You see, I always believed that, I give a metaphor, I always believed that the trees grow as fast as they can go. And I actually took it personally, and I know that I can actually grow as much as I can go. It's all in my hands. So I always was curious about personal development. I listened to YouTubes of Jim Rohn and Tony Robbins and all these people, and I knew that there is something in there, and I knew that one day I would like to have this personal improvement program, which actually whatever I understood from that and applied that, I wanted people to understand that in a clear and understandable way. After 14 years, I actually got back to Czech Republic, where I was working for corporates, mainly in travel and tourism, big agencies, big airlines companies, so opening the resorts and opening the hotels. And actually, I'm still managing director of one of the hotels in Prague, which actually you've been there.
Great hotel. I fully recommend it.
So actually, I always been sort of called where the hotel needed some change. So I always like to change things, to improve things. And I think that actually that passion I took into my personal development. When I was back in Czech Republic, I knew that I'm capable of doing so much more, but I never actually realized till I actually joined with Steven Payne the course of NLP, which was like a wow, eye-opening for me. And all of a
sudden, the reality check moment.
Yeah. You must know that. I don't know how it impacted you, but like for me, it was like, wow.
Yeah.
So great. And the community of people was amazing. So all of a sudden I was in that flow, and I realized that I'm in the right position where I can actually take the step further. Because I was always passionate about fitness. But once I moved to Czech and I was working for corporates and looking after the hotels, all I knew was work. I worked weekends, only took 2 weeks of holidays, and it got to the point where I got burnout.
Yeah, I bet.
And I remember that day, actually, I was preparing to work, and I was like sat down and tried to tie my shoe, and I couldn't even bend to tie my shoe. And I said, like, something's wrong here. I have all that money, I have all the success, and I was doing what I loved to do, but my health wasn't really corresponding to my success in that life, in that business life. So what I decided, it was this like enough moment. And previously, because I was passionate about fitness, I used to go to gym, I followed the programs, I followed the diets, but somehow I struggled because I didn't even have a time. It was either too expensive, too time consuming, really, that it was not sustainable. So I would give you an example. I would jump onto some program and be really strict about myself. And I can do it. I can go to extreme. So I was stuck to diets, which normally last for like 90 days, 3 months almost. And when it came to the moment when I skipped one day, I always started to go from the beginning, because I didn't realize that this is not a journey. This is, I had to take me a long time to understand this is a journey. So through all these programs I've tried, and some of them worked, some of them didn't. I went through body transformation many, many times. But all of a sudden, when I took a holidays for 2 weeks, my weight was up and my energy level was down. And I just like, oh, what's going on? This is crazy. And that moment I couldn't tie my shoe. I said actually to myself, look, I'm going to use all what I learned, all the diets, what worked, what didn't work. And because I was passionate already then about personal development, I started to actually search for science. And that's when I came, and some of the traditional methods too. And that's why I find biohacking actually as very...
Biohacking also sounds like the coolest thing you can ever think of. Immediately I'm just like, okay, Terminator, all those sort of films that you see on this sort of thing. But let's break some myths about what biohacking actually is.
So and that time I just stopped for a little bit, and I restart everything, all my knowledge. I started to study the science, I went through the books of some traditional methods and some new science and new technologies, and how can I all of that and actually into my lifestyle. So I closed myself for about 2 months, and I came out losing about 20 kilos. I don't know how much is it in pounds. It was a drastic change. So I had a 6-pack, and all of a sudden my level of the energy was great, and everything went so really good. So it was a life-changing. And I then realized I have something that I want to really give to people. That's when I met Pavlina, actually, my partner in Lifestyle Movement, and we decided that we want to do a program for people to introduce them something which is easy, which is to break all the myths about gyms and diets and stuff. So we found something easy, sustainable, and really transformational. And what I realized then as well, it's not about your body, but it's about your mind. So I was working broadly on all the spectrums of body and mind. So coming to biohacking, actually, what biohacking gave me, it was the knowledge that how to combine some of the thousands and thousands years of knowledge and how to use that with modern science. And so I dig deeper into that. And now I'm using biohacking to actually optimize my performance, optimize my health, optimize my fitness, food, everything. So biohacking is something that definitely would benefit to everybody who is somehow struggling, who wants to take it to the next level. Biohacking now is being used for some of the top sports performers, and not just sport, it's business as well.
Exactly. A few things that come up for me is why do you think that so many people go on that yo-yo sort of situation that you were doing before, you know, doing a gym routine for 3 months and then maybe having improvements, and then as soon as that 3 months stops, it kind of doesn't continue, or going on a diet of some sort. It's like most people I know are in that sort of routine in some way or another. Why is that?
Well, I will just answer that with what Albert Einstein said, make it simple, but not simpler. Because people are just being overwhelmed with so many information. And I think you had many people who agreed on your podcast before. There's so much information. It you can't, it takes so much time to actually go through that, to find what works. And believe me, if you follow one program, none of the programs are actually unique, because they been made as a general. So you actually have to go through some programs to find the right way, but it doesn't have to be that time consuming, doesn't have to be that hard, because there are easier ways. And that's when biohacking coaching steps in. That's why we're working with people actually to show them and point them into that way, how to actually get the results they wanted much faster.
For sure. If you were going to speak to someone that had never heard of biohacking before, what can you break it down into the simplest form possible for anyone to do without having to like buy a magnet mat that I know you have?
I was actually going to lie on them now.
Yeah, exactly.
No, so biohacking is a lifestyle. It's for somebody definitely who had enough of the traditional or some of the methods people actually, or let me put it simple way. I believe that we designed to be here much longer than we assume that we can. So for me, the number one would be health. I know that I can live 130 years, and it's my life mission. And I want people to know that as well, that they don't have to end up lives to be 80, to be 60 at some occasions. I'm not talking about just regular life. I'm talking about the good quality life. So movement, everything will be all okay. And why not? I don't know nobody who taking life seriously and wouldn't want to be here for that long, because you have a mission in life, you have a purpose in life, and you have so much you can learn and pass it on to people. Why you would not be living the longest you possibly can? And biohacking is one of the tools which actually can give you that. That's only one thing. I was talking about the mobility as well, the feeling. It comes down to energy, really, the energy level that you have. And I think this is important for people to know, that you can actually change the state, as we know in NLP and coaching, but you can also actually start to feel immediately better by the level of energy you have.
Do you think that people have to have a moment like you had where you couldn't tie your shoelaces to start making a change?
Great question. I don't think they have to, because I recently heard a podcast where it's actually, they were talking, I don't know if you know impact theory. They were talking about that you can actually change through your own experience. You really hit the rock bottom, which I did many times. That's why I don't want people to do that. But also you can start now by just being aware that I know that there are options you can do it. So you don't have to wait for the drop down to hit the rock bottom. You can actually start things now. And I think this is a bit more pleasant way. I went the harder way.
But I find like most people do go to that harder way though. They have to hit rock bottom before they can sort of, hitting rock bottom almost allows them to get that clarity in terms of what they actually want. Do you find that?
Yeah, I found it a lot. And you know what I found? I found it's sometimes very hard to talk to people and just to show them, look, just to tell them, look, there is another way. And they somehow, it comes down to beliefs, really, what people believe, because they strongly, and I don't blame them. Everybody has got, you know, coming from their parents, from traditions and so on and so on. So they may be a bit preserved at first.
Yeah.
And so for some, I would say there is a way where they need to hit the rock bottom, and for some they get this awakening, let's say, moment as we did in NLP and start to actually doing something. But it's very hard to say. I'm not the kind of guy who would tell, do this, do that. I'm more like inspirational guy. So when I show it or what I do, and I hope that people who actually find something in common, find the passion, the same passion, and find the same values, that they want to do it themselves.
Yeah. Let's talk about lifestyle movement then. You know, you and Pavlina set up this business to really inspire and change people's lives through lifestyle changes and fitness changes and health changes and everything you can name, which hence the name lifestyle movement, right? For you, you know, there's so many aspects to health and fitness. Like you said, it's a noisy old industry, right? What has been some of the challenges that you found in growing the business and being seen through that noise? Because you guys have had some seriously impressive press in Czech. You know, you've been in some very great magazines, TV interviews, all these other aspects, which is fantastic. But how have you allowed yourself to be seen in that way?
Well, I think that we actually, only what we do, we showing people that it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be so painful. It does not matter when you stop and start again, that life is a journey. It's not, you know, I reached the goal and then, you know, step another goal. It's the process, it's the lifestyle, really. That's why we have the lifestyle. And the movement, it's because now is the best time where people start to awake a little bit, and they realizing that actually the priority is themselves. Not in a bad way, but themselves. Because how can I give energy to people if I don't have energy myself? How can I give inspiration to people to be inspiring others if I don't have that myself? So I'm talking about walking the talk. At the same time, in this industry, as you mentioned, it's a big industry, and you know, there's been lots of myths. We can talk about lots of them, like eating fat is bad. So I think it's coming down to finding the right information and actually applying what people went through themselves and see it on yourself first. And then hopefully it will inspire them enough to realize, oh, wow, that's actually very good.
Yeah, exactly. Talk me through if I was a client coming to you, talk me through the steps that you would work with me to like figure out my own sort of what's going to work for me, because I know you guys you're not sort of like a one size fits all mentality, which I love.
Yeah. So we believe that any change can happen either on the physiological level, and that's through body. So you can start to go to gym and start to feel all of a sudden better, see the changes, and then maybe you start to think differently. That doesn't apply to everybody. So the second thing we can start with is your mind. So we, through our coaching, working through the mind to actually work with beliefs, values, and to realize people there is actually themselves who are actually matter. And based on that change of their beliefs, values, you know, they start to think, they start to see health as a priority. So it's a body-mind combination. So it's really hard to say that you're the type who starts with body, you're the type who starts with mind. So how we work with clients, we normally get them through our fitness. Unless it's an athlete, which already know about fitness, then we work on the mind level. So for a guy which comes to us, we would do diagnosis. We will see where the person stands. So we will take all the measurements. We do diagnosis if there is any health problems, if you know, if they have any. We normally recommend to do a blood test as well to see overall picture of their health. And based on that knowledge, we start to train them, start with movement, start to introduce them to fitness. because the fastest change you can see, it's within the first 2 to 3 weeks of if you do work with body. Then the second month we do month of this, and second month we do coaching. So we work on the coaching, because people get a lot, and we already mentioned it from the beginning. You get to plateau, you get to where you expect that the trainer is responsible to actually for your results, but the trainer is not responsible if you go and eat the fridge out.
McDonald's.
Yeah. So the coaching is really important, because it will actually give you the purpose of continuing, give you accountability. And then the third month is actually very interesting, where we put nutrition at least together with sleeping, because sleeping, believe it or not, so after those 2 months, the first month is the fitness, the second month is coaching. After those 2 months, people already get the feel of what's working, how they're supposed to train. They have the mindset of to continue. And then we introduce new nutrition, because it's a bit, with nutrition, it's individualized.
Yeah.
And sleep, believe it or not, sleep is actually responsible for your results overall.
Exactly. By doing it that way as well, I'm guessing you're not overwhelming people. You're not saying, look, you've got to, go to the gym every day and have salad all day, every day, all that kind of stuff. You're allowing, the one word I love that you guys use is the lifestyle word. It's the fact that this isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. It's you guys want to allow those changes to happen, and then at the right time, bring in what they need to bring in that right moment to get the overall change that they want, right?
Yeah, right. And I just read, I actually bought a Simon Sinek book, Infinity Game. It's not a game where you play win. There's a game where actually it's infinitive. So you actually run it longer. It's not you end up. It's a lifestyle, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think it's really, really important people understand that at first when they start this journey, that you get the results. That's nice. You get the physiological change. You start to think differently, but to keep it sustainable. And that's what we're aiming for. We're aiming for the lifestyle to be sustainable on the longer run.
Yeah, exactly. You don't really want a client for life. You want to make it so that they have their own life.
Exactly. Yeah. And, everybody lives different lives. Everybody has got different priorities. So how we can actually sustain the healthy lifestyle for various people.
For sure. I think as I'm talking to an expert in health and fitness, I've got to bring up the coronavirus that's going on at the moment. The world is in lockdown. Is this exactly, you've got your mask ready, but let's face it, the masks don't do anything anyway. It's fake. But with people being at home and having such a disruptive moment in their life, right? So many people out there will have those moments of when you can't tie your shoelace, right? Because they're being forced to allow themselves to think and get out of that routine of wake up, go to work, get home, have dinner, go to bed. Is this almost the right time, if there is ever a right time, for people to start adding and changing their lifestyle for the better, do you think, curiously?
And I think we have the same opinion on that. The right time is now. You do actually, I am. So the right time is now. There's no matter how strict the government is to put us in isolation, because you can start now. And actually, if you see one of my few last videos, I'm talking about it very deeply and greatly. And today I actually made, because I'm also a fitness owner, so I actually went to very empty fitness, and I made some on a 1-to-1 square meter, actually some exercises people can do at home. So there's no such a limit where people should stop. Now is the time actually to start to think. And I think that this virus it's as bad as it is, that's give us opportunity to actually stop and think and prioritize the things. And when it comes to health, people should really see that the health is the priority. Sure. And so you can start at any time, really. There's no limitation. The government,
the only limitation is you, as always, is ourselves. We're the only people stopping us from doing anything.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I think it's important now that people, when they stay home, open the window, find a square meter where you can move, and just go to some videos and start to move. You can start to move it little. You know what people actually think and stops them, what I found from my own experience, people stopping them, a part of, the time and money and stuff. It's the willingness, and they feel, it has to be hard. It doesn't have to be hard. It's better to start with a little step than not to start at all.
In terms of that aspect, then, what point does the hardness have to be overwhelming for them to actually start, to make that first step? Because otherwise they're always going to be telling themselves, oh, it's going to be too hard.
I believe as well, when this virus actually started, I went to a store because I also was like, oh yeah, I'm not going to have anything to eat. And I saw a massive queue. I actually stayed in the queue for an hour and a half, people having these baskets full of food, mainly frozen pizza and beer. So I was like, okay, so once they finish the beer and the pizza, maybe then they realize, it comes to the moment they say, oh, I'm too full, I can't even move, maybe I should do something. And that's the time where they can actually start to think, oh, now is the time I can actually do something for myself. They stretch, maybe they have a rotor pad like I have here, maybe they have something else. And maybe actually it's a lot about the partners, a lot about the environment. The environment affects the way what you do and the way you think about health in general. So if you're in a community where people don't support healthy lifestyle, then you lacking the opportunity to actually start. So if your wife would be, let's say, not really caring about, healthy lifestyle, your man, mainly is man, I don't know why, then you have very little chance of maybe succeeding from the longer term.
How do you change that then? How do you change if your environment, like your home life, isn't supportive as you could? Can you change that supportive? Like, how do you get those conversations going?
I will tell you something. I recently got divorced, and I only got divorced because after 7 years of I've been married, it came to the point that we started to be having very different values. I found myself that we are very different people. I'll give you an example. So I started with this healthy lifestyle. I stock up with really healthy foods, and I came home and I started to prepare the food and sit down and have my plate of, broccoli and vegetable and really good stuff. And I see my partner eating, macaroni, let's say, like in microwave, heat up. So if you have that, it's really discouraging. And I realized that, is it me? Can I see myself 5 years from now living this healthy lifestyle and trying to tell my partner to actually follow the same footstep? So I take the radical change, even though it was painful. But end of the day, I could not bear with the picture of my mind being 5 years time, sitting in the table,
that macaroni again,
eating the macaroni again. So it comes to personal choice.
Always.
How strong you actually want that change. For me, it was no really other way. This is what I wanted to do.
Also, the fact that, people do change over time, values change, beliefs change. So I think you always have those moments in life where you have to reevaluate your values. You have to reevaluate your beliefs. And that's why a lot of relationships shift. And sometimes you can reevaluate and it's a positive shift. So, you both reevaluate and move forward. But other times you kind of have to be, I'm a big fan of saying, you have to be selfless, you have to be selfish. You have to really follow your own values, because that thought of you in 5 years eating macaroni, for example, is not you, right? It's not the David I know, that's for sure. And to be fair, when I was out in Prague, he did some very good food.
Yeah, then you can always this is the beauty part, because you think this healthy lifestyle has to be really strict, but it's not about being strict, because we don't run to a goal line. It's the journey, as we mentioned in the beginning. So have that chocolate, have that bad food, but make sure that it's always the minority, that you always think what you do. And once you have that, eat it with love, because enjoy it. Exactly. Same with life. And so people are sometimes scared that how about if I eat bad food? Do I have to start from the beginning? You don't have to. Think about it as a journey.
Exactly. So for you, I know this time might be a little bit difficult to ask this question, but what's happening with Lifestyle Movement this year? What have you guys got planned? I know you've got a retreat happening, hopefully, if it's still happening. What else have you got on the table?
So we have scheduled some interviews for some magazines now in the Czech Republic, mainly like a hipster magazines. Like biohacking is a theme where it's being introduced to society, but very slowly. So it's mainly younger generation now are curious about biohacking. When it comes to Lifestyle Movement itself, so we just making a little tweaks to our program. We actually launched in last year in November online program where we from our own experience we put down the easy way, sustainable way, and show people that you don't have to spend 5 days a week in the gym.
Yeah.
We tweaking that before the updated launch. When you mentioned the retreat, we booked actually 2 terms in Tyrolean Alps, where we love that place in close to Kitzbühel. There's a beautiful lake, and we do lots of working with body and mind. We do lots of trekking, we do pedal boating, we taking people into a really spiritual journey, let's say, as well, because we're showing some of the routines we do to set up the mind for the day and so on, as well as being active for your body, being active for the mind in a good spiritual way.
Yeah.
So Lifestyle Movement is moving forward. We hoping that this time we also start our podcast this year.
Hoping. There's no hope, David.
There's no hoping. You're right. You're right.
Will be starting your podcast.
To be honest, you've been actually the very good inspiration for starting and for anybody who's actually wanting to start podcast. This is the man to go.
It's so easy. People just to very touch upon this point, because it annoys me, I think, but people overcomplicate it like they do with diets and fitness. It's like, just start speaking. Start speaking to people, start speaking to yourself, whatever it is, whatever you want to speak about, do it.
And this is a great thing, as you mentioned, just started. People like, oh yeah, but I have to start. It's when you start, even with a little step, the feeling you get afterwards, that you say to yourself, I did something. And it's better and less distracting than the feeling that you say, I haven't done anything, I do it tomorrow, and then you feel bad not doing it.
Tomorrow never comes.
Yeah, you're in that loop.
Exactly. David, listen, my final question to you is, if you could give 3 tips to anybody to improve their lifestyle, what would those 3 tips be?
Improve your sleep. That would be number 1. Pay attention to your sleep. I actually teaching people to start with sleep, always. Sleep is the most important thing because it actually rejuvenates your body and mind while you sleep. There's lots of aspects to that, but sleep would be first. Pay attention, eat mindfully. Know and see the food as, let's say, molecules. Being a biochemist for once, and so if you eat that fries, know that they can impact you very bad for your mitochondria and stuff like that. But so eat mindfully. That would be a second advice. We all know the exercise is really important, but I would say work with, if the exercise and body doesn't give you the overall enjoyment, start to work on your mind level. Because there's a mind and body connection always. So, and believe it's possible, because there's plenty of examples of people who actually did it. So find your role model, follow it through, and optimize your sleep.
There we go. David, thank you so much for coming on. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, speak to you about your program, speak to you about your coaching, what's the best way for them to do that?
Write me a postcard.
It's going to take a long time.
I'm collecting the stamps and postcards. No, just kidding. You can do it actually through visiting our website, www.lstylemovement.com. You join our Facebook community, join our Facebook group, Instagram, LinkedIn, all everywhere. That. So, everywhere. Yeah, everywhere.
And anyone listening, watching, I highly recommend you speak to David. I've known him for a long time, and he is the real deal when it comes to lifestyle, fitness, health, everything. And plus, he'll tell you some real wacky stories about biohacking, which I love. But David, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Thanks everyone for watching. Thanks everyone for listening. It's been Founders 365 with me, Steven Haggerty, and David Kaufman from Lifestyle Movement.
See you all. Wish you all